Roger, operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. Then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Woo-wee! Let's get to it. Story number 1, 60 years of radio. Susan Wajner has a report out of Struthers explaining how WKTL is celebrating 60 years of airtime. The student-run station located in the Struthers Fieldhouse was the first all-student staff radio station in the country, according to the report. Thus getting the story into the top 8. The story serves as a testimony for everybody working at the station. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. 2 trending stories that are very bad for Youngstown. First, Ursula made top headlines and national news in a hazing case. And now another local incident involving a Moody student who was shot after a football game is in circulation in top headlines. I guess this happened at YSU Stadium. This is according to the report by Ed Runyon. Now, the still current attention being placed on youth and youth safety is what got the story in. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. Poverty still a topic of concern in the Valley. Nancy Lingata has a report out of Warren published September 22nd explaining what action is being taken to tackle poverty in the Valley. Now, the entire event included a number of high-profile officials and included testimony. The event was designed for every mile that a person walked, $1 was raised. That's what the event was about, to talk about and tackle poverty. Now, the continued push to end poverty, not only in America but in the world, is what got the story in. That's a big goal, but right now it does look like it could be. It almost seems impossible, but I guess with every walk, it may seem hopeful. That's why story number 3 made it. Story number 4. Louisville school tackles no-shows to school, absenteeism. Susan Wajner has a report out of Louisville in what the article explains as a strategy to curb chronic absenteeism. Now, this story made it in because the absenteeism level set at 40.3% last year, thus getting this story into the top 8. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. Utility bills in top local headlines. David Skolnick has a report published September 24th explaining how State Rep Lauren McNally, a Democrat from Youngstown, has introduced 2 public utility bill reform bills. Now, the report goes, the report does mention Ohio's most recent corruption scandal and the 2023 East Palestine train derailment disaster. Now, the article explains how the bill will, it would ban public utility companies from engaging in politics and with ratepayer money, and the other would, it's two things in the bill, and I guess the other part of the bill would designate Ohio Environmental Protection Agency and Public Utility Commission of Ohio vehicles as emergency vehicles in certain emergency situations, folks. This is almost word for word in the report. There's just, this is what the bill is going to tackle. The report explains some obvious situations and really informs the reader about other options and what is being done to prevent anything similar that just took place in Ohio when it comes to corruption and train derailments from happening again. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Big B. Story number 6. Property tax reform is still a hot topic. Brandon Cantwell has a report published September 24th explaining how Trumbull officials are addressing the latest property tax reform news. The report is out of Howland and basically points out how important property taxes are to communities. Now, especially local communities. Now, the article comes off as a way to inform the public on what would occur if the property taxes were abolished. Now, if the article also serves as a piece that may give them an opportunity to rethink their petition plans. So the groups that are petitioning property taxes, folks, this story is still developing. That's why number 6 Also made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 of the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you don't get up this early, you can check out the website on the screen and check out the show. I do upload to the website on Mondays along with other videos and other things that I'm doing, popping my head up in community activities all over the place. But that's what I'm doing. So if you want to check out the show. If you don't get up this early, I do upload to the website on Monday. Story number 7, a local debt story. Raymond L. Smith has a report published September 24th explaining how Trumbull County commissioners are discussing the county's debt level, according to the headline. Now, the report begins by stating that the debt level is moderate. Now, the article then goes on to explain how the county has approximately $7.8 million in notes and $15.1 million in bonds. Now, it goes on further to inform the reader that the county will have approximately $2.37 million in special assessments, short-term bonds, and USDA bonds. Now, this is almost word for word in the report. Now, the county auditor, Christy Soteric, she goes on to say that the county has about $17 million in debt. Now, the article goes on further to mention what effect property tax reform will have on the efforts to eliminate debt and to tackle debt, thus getting the story to the top 8. I was made to the top this week. Story number 7, big headline. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you don't get up this early, you can check out the show on the website. But if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website. Also, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, order a sponsor program, or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in the store and buy something in the store where I'm hanging out with some local helpers and maybe some local people who are giving me their time in the store, helping out, decorating, trying to make the store beautified for you. And we get all kinds of stuff in the store, used, sometimes new. You may find something handy, and some stuff is quality, some stuff is used. You may even find some antiques laying around. So let's get to the top story. Story number 8, Trumbull Hospital still in top headlines. Pat Littlewis has a report published September 20th out of Warren, keeping the Insight Hospital story in Trumbull County the story alive. Now, the report informs the public that state approval is all that stands in the way as of last Friday before this show aired. Now, once they get the go to reopen, the report says that Insight plans to offer a 24/7 emergency department with supporting services, including inpatient and outpatient services. Now, the business structure may be more solid also because Insight plans to reopen as a nonprofit hospital. The story is filled with high hopes, seeing that Insight has not been in operation since March 27th of this year, according to the report. Now, what got this story in is because Insight CEO Dr. Jawad Shah has stated that the hospital has lost $30 million since it entered Trumbull County in November of 2024. The article cites ties with Stewart Healthcare as a factor. Folks, the story is still developing. That's my story number 8 made to the top this week. Well, folks, are our top 8 local headlines developing news stories that made it this week. I'm right back with the top 8 international headlines developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines developing news stories that made us week. Folks, this week we're talking about human nature and forgiveness, and how hard it is to forgive people in this new day and age with people just throwing dirt on people's face, dusting people. I mean, this is probably as gritted as it gets. Do you know, in my lifetime, I have had to face more people that I've had to forgive and just let go. And I'll tell you why. Folks, there was once upon a time, a little guy like me, little young man, my life was in danger. And when your life is in danger, is in the hands of a doctor, you may see things differently. You may get up every day humble and trying to fight for every day that you get thankful. And a lot of people may not understand that because some people just may not have never been challenged. piece of bread to them is they're cherished and they don't know how to let go. Folks, I talk to people all the time and they're always holding grudges. You know, you may talk to somebody and they say, it happened years ago. And it happens to all of us. You know, I have been scarred by women, scarred by friends, family. But I have always found a way to just let go. Because I'm going to tell you, folks, when you lose those people and the fighting is over, you get old and gray, the dust settles, you start realizing that you don't get that time back. And I've tried my best to be a humble-hearted person, to try to be loving, but I'm not gonna lie, sometimes you get tested, folks. You get tested. But you've got to find a way to let go as a human being. And it's hard, as hard as it is, you may lose, somebody may kill your child, may shoot at you, threaten you, and it's just amazing how that time, how time goes on and that person starts digesting the wrong that they did. And they come to you later on. Some of them may apologize. Some of you may never even see. But still, it's that thought in their head. It's called a conscience, folks. And I hope that you are working on your conscious mind, whether it be racial, whether it be a relationship. It could even be yourself. Maybe you don't forgive yourself for some things. You may have lost somebody, folks. And now it's time for our song. You got to learn. We've got to learn to let go. Smack a politician in the face. Tell a politician to get the hell out of my life. I enjoyed my last meal. I enjoyed last supper. And I love the Lord. Even though they crucified the Savior, I still got to move on and forgive, folks. Whew, glad I got that off my chest. Learn to love, forgive. And if you want to choke a politician and piss in his canteen and watch him drink the water, and go over to his house and maybe vote for him. How about that? Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number one. Speaking of learning to love, low-income seniors in top headlines again. MoneyWise has a headline stating that the Trump administration has halted $300 million in funding for low-income seniors, leaving thousands struggling to survive. Ooh, my God. The report really highlights what retirees have been going through, and with some having nothing saved for retirement, and even mentions how some of them are in panic mode. Seniors, how do you leave out the seniors? If no one has ever heard about SCSEP, this report could inform more seniors who are maybe in need on where to go for assistance. But the report goes on further to explain how the program may be on the slashing list, folks. That's getting the story to the top 8. That's why story number 1 made it. Story number 2, how Hamas changed the world's perception. NPR has a report asking the question of what's happening in Gaza. I guess it's genocide. They're saying it's genocide. What's happening in Gaza? Is it genocide? The article goes on further to say that reticent scholars have changed their minds on what is taking place in the region. This story continues to echo in underground news circles because after the attack that nearly killed 1,200 people, with 250 taken hostage, according to Israeli officials, this was Hamas that attacked Israel. I guess in response, more than 64,000 people, including more than 18,000 children, have been hurt or killed, with almost all of Gaza's estimated 2 million residents being forced from their homes. Folks, this is not a good story. Now, so one horrific attack by Hamas has now shifted the world's perception of this conflict. So this has gotten out of hand, folks. This story is staying in top headlines due to claims of genocide. Talk about hard to forgive, folks. They could have lived in peace for years. And now we've come to this. Story number 2. Big head. Story number 3, the chaos unfolding in the immigration aisles. The Dallas Morning News has a report stating that one ICE detainee has been killed and 2 wounded in a shooting at a Dallas office. Now, the headline goes on to say that the shooter is dead. This is yet another shooting dividing the lines when it comes to motives and confusion. Now, the incident is still being investigated, but has shot the tough job of ICE. I guess it's back at top headlines, back at the top of the news pile because it was starting to fade away. But I guess more ICE, more immigration raids. This is big, and they're talking about drug busts, deportations. Story number 3, gaining more steam. Big. Story number 4. What are CEOs saying about Trump? Fortune has a headline stating that behind closed doors, top CEOs say Trump is bad for business and it's time to make America into America again. Now, the report is written by Jeffrey Sonalfield and Stephen Henriquez. Now, and I guess it was published September 21st. Now, what got the story in is because the CEOs that were gathering held this gathering were primarily Republicans. It was Republicans at the meeting. Now, the report cites chaos, fear, and confusion. Folks, this was not just any gathering to kind of get you to get the understanding of the story and how important it is. The report mentions how 100 top business leaders, how they feel about Trump's policies. Now, like I said, I always try to look at it from both angles, but this is not good for President Trump. Now, Trump has to find a way to get this base back on his wagon with better policies, because when you got 100 well-knowledgeable CEOs complaining, that's not good. They have employees, and these are votes. Now, the article goes on to say that Trump is undermining an economic system that took decades to build under both Republican and Democratic administrations. The story is definitely worth a read because it brings to the surface a different angle when approaching political matters from the CEO's perspective, not the journalists, not the radio hosts, but the CEO, the people who are in the mix. Folks, story number 4, big headline. Well, folks, are top 4 international headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back to top 4, so don't you go anywhere. The media to be Brown West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks. Yes, I am a man, and yes, I do like women. I have been learning that this new generation has a lot of technology, artificial women. You can go online and Google and see all types of booty-loos and jugaloos and jiggly-janglers. But I tell you what, kids have changed. I went to a local gym and I had to talk to people. I always have to talk to people about something. And they always saying, these kids are bad. They're shooting at us. They're threatening us. And we cannot discipline them. They don't know how to work. They're so selfish and they don't want to work. And then I go on to YouTube and I see videos of old timers running through the woods to be tough and to be vibrant. Now you have to be careful what you say. You have to be careful how you feel. Some people are afraid of the opposite sex. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I get afraid after being scarred. But you have to learn something as we talk this week about human nature. And we're learning is that not only do children need a whooping, some of us adults, we are afraid to give it a but we're learning to discipline in different ways. Like, if you don't do this, you don't get to look at that artificial inseminated woman. If you don't do this, we are sanctioning you. We are taking away your remote control. You have to go out into the field and cut the grass. They don't want to cut grass. They want to play the video game and do the jugaloo on the video game. The ticky-ticky-talk, ticky-ticky-talk. They want to sing and dance in front of the ticky-ticky-talk instead of moonwalking on the BET Music Awards. Folks, yes, we have reached a day and age where you could be at an amusement park and you may see 3 little girls, 3 little beds, dancing in front of a ticky-tock cell phone at an amusement park. Ride some rides, baby. Sing like Whitney. We don't see that anymore, but we do see them on TikTok. Folks, I have been screaming and trying to get actors and do stuff in the independent world, but their minds are transformed into a little chip that's on YouTube. They don't want to work with the brothers. They don't even want to work with the other brothers, the Muslim brothers, the Indian brothers, the Spanish brothers. They want to be on the ticket talk. Folks, we need something because the reverends aren't making the money they used to make. People are getting depressed and deprived. And they're being on the TikTok, the short videos, the social media, the fussy books, and the blue blues and the boo boos and everything and all the stuff. But we have to learn to get to work. The last point I want to make before we get into these top 4 is I get these texts about racial matters all the time. About people stirring the pot about racial matters. And I kindly text them back and saying that I have to still work. Folks, I can become a racist. I can become hate-filled and think that all Punani is evil. Or I can learn to do work. And please, not only the evil Punani, but the good, juicy Punani. Let's waste no time, folks. I'm still trying to learn Spanish. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Trump and what the media got out of the UN address. Speaking of Punani, Russia and U.S. conflict in NATO or airspace. Trump's climate opinion and a view of the world from Trump's perspective. How does big man Trump view the world? The president. Bloomberg has a report with a headline stating that Trump heads to UN gathering facing billions in unpaid dues. The report was published September 22nd by Magdalena Del Vela. Under Trump, the report says that Washington has not paid the UN the $3 billion owed. The U.S. alone accounts for 22% of the UN budget, thus putting all eyes and ears on what Trump had and has to say about world and global matters, folks. This story really puts the attention on Trump's plan when it comes to the U.S. and UN relations and membership. Now, at the moment, it appears that Trump's hard stance on an isolated country functioning without the world's help could be the reasoning behind his decision to withhold funds, or he could be planning to get a better deal out of the masses. That means the world, folks. This story is still developing because nobody knows what is actually ticking in Trump's ticket-talk mind. Story number 5. Big story number 6. Middle class update. USA Today has a report highlighting the state of the middle class. The report asks the question of where is the prosperity. It goes on to say that middle class Americans aren't feeling it. The report goes on to explain how consumer sentiment sagged to 55.4, I guess that's percent in September, which is down from 70.1 a year ago. Now, one key talking point in the report states that while higher income Americans earning more than $100,000 a year, I guess they still have a positive view on the economy. They're saying that lower income consumers earning under $50,000 have a negative view. It's all about perception, folks. Now, the report goes on further by laying out all of the data to back up the claims of what is taking place in the economy and really makes the story a must read when it comes to who's staying afloat in the money fight. That's why story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines in developing news stories that made this week. Folks, if you don't get up this early, you say, get up that Brian, he's a crazy. I'm going back to sleep. He on too early. He need to be on during the midnight to midday. Well, you can check out the show. I do upload to our website. There's a ton of podcasts in the world, but if you do want to catch up on your news and just get a little smile from time to time, you can check out it. I do upload to the website on Monday. Story number 7, the U.S. economic report. CNN has a report by Brian Mena explaining how the U.S. economy grew at a 3.8% rate in the second quarter. This is good news. The report says it's significantly stronger than previously reported. Now, this is almost word for word in the main idea of the article. Now, the report goes on to talk about progressing GDP numbers and briefly touches on slowing labor market growth. Now, this story is still developing. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big. Story number 8 at the top. International headline and developing news story that made it this week for you. Yeah, to keep you informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support and you do want to come to the store, you can either go to the website on method8inc.com. It's on the screen or on this way. It's one of these ways. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman or Youngstown, Ohio. See my smiling face in the store. Folks, I'm just filled with love and affection. So show me some support. You know, I've been serving this community for over 19 years, and some of you have probably never seen the jolly little man smiling and with a shaved head and nice little trimmed beard. Folks, let's get to the top story. Story number 8. The government shutdown circles. Talking about money. Federal checks. USA Today has a report explaining how the White House is preparing for mass layoffs and a looming government shutdown. Folks, this is serious business. And if you got some stuff on your mind, when your money starts slowing up, you start rethinking your strategy, you start asking for forgiveness, you start loving people. Folks, time is ticking when it comes to this report. This story will really impact the federal workforce if funding disputes don't get resolved. Now, the report informs readers on the most recent funding stories hitting the mainstream news circuits. Lapsing Obamacare subsidies were highlighted in the report. The article also mentions how the federal government has a 2.4 million member workforce with 300,000 already leaving and 154,000 who accepted a buyout. Folks, the report does touch on MAGA rage a little when it comes to the government jobs, but succeeds at the reality unfolding when it comes to trimming the government spending. Folks, this story is still developing, and people who don't understand what less government is, folks, it's already meaning some serious cuts to people's money, folks, and their wealth, which when you're in capitalism and you got it going on, folks, you don't think you're going to ever lose that paycheck. And when you start losing it, you start counting, you start calling on Jesus. You start praying again. Praying for your blessing. If you have never been in poverty, folks, if you haven't ever seen the light on the other side of the mountain, now may be your time to start rethinking who you believe in and who you can call on, folks, because you can only discover the depths of space so much, but when you start starving, you need a meal. You need that manna from the clouds, folks. Well, folks, there are top 8 local and international headlines developing news stories that I made this week. I hope you guys something out of today's program. I always get something out of the research, as usual. I thank all the news outlets, the journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the media, the man in the middle, navigating your news story just to keep people informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, cook something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor the program, or you can stop by the store at 5648 Mark Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face. Well, folks, I'm out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week. Me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.